very pleasant good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon rush. On a little late this afternoon, we have a protracted show, a shortened show this afternoon. We're going from the 6 o'clock hour up to about 6:30. We may extend if we feel like, because we don't have any program coming immediately after. We have Sherry Duncan's in the ring at 8 p.m. this evening. So we have some time to play with. We're on at 6 right now, and we're going to be unpacking some issues. As usual, as we do every single afternoon, we want to welcome those persons joining us internationally in the region and right here in Guyana to the afternoon rush. We want to say thank you very much to all of you who would have joined. Like we always do, drop a comment and let us know where you're joining us from, and we give you that shout out this afternoon. Our usual viewers know what this is all about. We just like to know where you're viewing the program from. Um, Lily is viewing from Maryland, USA. Thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. Trinidad and Tobago in the house. We're seeing on another stream there, St. Lucia. Lynch, thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. I see a very loyal viewer. It's Dotson there, says that she's watching. George from Antigua, and Peter is in New York, New Jersey. Miss Carol J. Amanda from New Jersey. Thank you very much for tuning in. All of you, welcome. As we normally say, the price of admission here is just for you to share the live stream. Let your friends and family know that we are on, and we will be unpacking some credible and valid information here this afternoon. We will be joined a little later by the regional chair of region number 4, Mr. Daniel Siram, for us to talk about COVID 19. As you know, we're going to be talking about some things in the news. Exxon Mobil. We're going to be talking about the COVID situation in Guyana and issues that are in the news on this Thursday afternoon, this Thursday evening. Linden, Essequibo, New Jersey, Port Kaituma, Toronto. Thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. Share the live stream as you come on. Share with your friends and family. As you do that, let me share also to some of our other locations so we can get our friends and family onto the live stream. We're going to be bringing to you the bits of information that is in the news, and we're going to be going on to our opinion segment, the story behind the story, a little later down in the program. Um, London, thank you very much for joining us. Right. Good afternoon to all of you joining the program today. All right. Let's see if we can share at a few more locations. I know the internet has been giving us a little problem, but we are going to try. We're going to try and bring all of that under control here. Right. Let me just share. Welcome as usual to the program. Right. I think we're back on track now. See if we can share this at a few more locations. Right. Doesn't seem as if we're getting to share, but we're going to proceed with the program. Watching from the UK, Brooklyn, Anthony Narain, watching from JFK. Anthony is on his job and he's watching. Thank you very much for tuning in, Anthony. As usual, Mike Coney, Blairmont, all of you joining us, we want to say thank you very much and we appreciate it. We appreciate your viewership. Antigua in the house, our large contingent of Guyanese who are there over in Antigua. Of course, we know that we have been sending aid to our friends in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We had recently another eruption. Of course, this is not only affecting those persons in St. Vincent, but the ash is blowing as far as Barbados, which is about 110 kilometers due east of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they have been affected severely by the ash also. But aid has been pouring in from the CARICOM countries, CARICOM sister countries. Of course, Guyana has been doing its part in supplying relief to our friends and our brothers and sisters over there in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Barbados, as I just mentioned, Barbados in the house. Isola Allen, welcome and good afternoon to all of you. Herstellin, thank you. Bagotstown, lovely to have all of you on the program, folks. We're going to get into our issues in the news in just a quick second. As I remind you, we'll be joined by the regional chair, region number 4, RDC Chairman Mr. Daniel Siram, in just a few minutes as we get everything together. He's going to be talking to us about what is happening in his region as it relates to COVID. He sits on the National COVID Task Force, so he's going to be bringing to you some information on what is happening. Let's start right there, folks, as we are dealing with what is in the news. Let us start right there. I normally like to start with our numbers. We know we have not from day one forgotten our numbers, so I'm going to start there. It's been 409 days since the March 2nd regional and general elections of 2020, and the country is still without credible results. We know of the two petitions that are still in the court. On the 26th of April, we're going to hear a ruling from the High Court level on petition number 88, which deals with the legality and the constitutionality of Order 60 of 2020, which was, dubbed the recount order that GCOM used, of course, to try and remedy the situation that was playing out in the country. But, folks, that is going to be heard. The ruling is going to be heard on the 26th of this month. The appeal to petition 99 is still there, and we're going to be getting soon a date when that will be heard in the appeals court. But again, 409 days and the country still does not have credible results, because if you are going to say to me that what we got from the national recount was credible results, then something has to be wrong. There is no way that we can go through all of what we went through there and found all of what we found, find all of what we found, and still believe that the results from the recount may be deemed credible, right? Again, the PPP, the People's Progressive Party Civic, is sitting in the seat of government on numbers that could not be credible. The chief elections officer in his report said based on all of the anomalies and irregularities, it could not deem those results from the recount credible, right? It's unfortunate that they would have been installed and they're sitting at the seat, in the seat of power now for 256 days. 256 days sitting in the seat of power on those fraudulent numbers. So you can't be angry at the opposition for deeming you fraudulent and installed when you are trying to stymie the process and the means by which you can clear yourself and be deemed legitimate. That is the petition. The petition is there if you want to people to deem you as legitimate and legal and not fraudulent. Then allow the petition to go through. Allow the world, allow everybody in Guyana to see the evidence coming out of the recount that proves that those numbers that we got from the recount were illegitimate and not credible. Right. So we've had 256 days of this administration. Folks, as I reminded you yesterday, we are doing renovations to our set. We're changing the show. So we're in a temporary location. So you uh, just bear with us with some of the background noise that you may be hearing. But we're still committed to bringing you credible and valid information. So, albeit. Right. Let's get to the news before we get to the regional chair. We saw, and again, we're getting to the news, but I will start with the bad numbers. Start with the bad numbers. Folks, COVID 19 deaths climbed to 262 persons. 262 persons have now passed away, right, from COVID 19 in Guyana, right? 262 persons. These are not good numbers. These are bad numbers. And we're asking persons to ensure that they do what they need to do to protect themselves and their family from this COVID 19. We're seeing in the reports coming from, of course, we want to thank the people at News Source Guyana and the people at Village Voice, where we glean most of our information from as we talk with you and we try to unpack some of the issues, right? As we talk about 262 persons who would have passed, we see in the news here that a new variant may be driving the rise in COVID-19 cases, right? In Guyana and in Guyana, the Pan American Health Organization director said, folks, this is serious. This is extremely serious and we need to pay attention to it. Yes, we have the vaccine, but the vaccine, of course, as you may know, it was designed for a particular variant and a particular strain. Let us hope that this is not the case, and it says here this may be driving this surge. What else is driving this surge is the irresponsibility on the part of Guyanese people. That irresponsibility that was allowed by the PPP. Because I say this, and again, I make no bones about it. This surge in COVID-19 death and cases, it has to be laid squarely at the feet of the PPP. And you might say, Randy, you're just being political, you just think, but you may look at the facts. The fact that the PPP basically reversed all of those measures put in place by the AP and UFC when they were installed on August the 2nd, rolling back those measures, moving the curfew from 6 a.m., 6 p.m., moving that curfew back to first it was 8 and then it was 9:30 and then it was 10:30, relaxing measures in terms of um, indoor dining, clubs and pubs. And they said in no uncertain terms that they are going to be enforcing soft measures. Soft measures. That is what they said. 250 something days later, we see this surge in COVID-19 cases. And we see this administration now running helter skelter, getting the army bus to pick up people, charging persons now without masks, even harder measures than the AP and UFC had in place. After they done bungle the whole thing, squarely at their feet. As we continue in the news, folks, as we continue in the news, and we getting a little rain coming down now, but as we continue in the news, we see that the village of Aishalton has now decided to go to 1 month shutdown. 1 month. Those persons who might be hearing the rain, we're in an outdoor location, so we are covered, but we are going to still be hearing some rain. Let's see if we can, as long as you hear me over the rain. But the village of Aishalton, folks, 1 month lockdown from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The curfew has been implemented in the deep south Rupununi village of Aishalton. This is from Wednesday. They had 9 cases of COVID-19 recorded here. It is suspected that a number of other persons in the village tested positive for the virus. And there are reports of multiple persons who usually attend church in the village are now among the positive cases. These recorded cases are the first set of cases recorded in this village. Right? On Thursday morning, Simon Marcelo, who's said to be in his 90s, passed away. And reported that his relatives are among persons who are also positive. According to the notice published on the village Facebook page, only essential services into the village will be accommodated, and the villagers from Letem and Georgetown who wish to travel to the village will be quarantined in their homes for a given time. Right? Of particular importance in this village of Aishalton, persons are persons who are traveling from Brazil, neighboring Brazil. which is the epicenter of this pandemic in Latin America. Folks, we have to take this thing seriously. We must take it seriously, right? So that is, quite what is happening there. But the people of Aishalton have decided to take measures to curb the spread of this pandemic in their region. Folks, I want to invite in, as we are talking COVID, I want to invite chairman, the regional chairman for region number 4, Mr. Daniel Siram. I think he is ready. If he's not, right, I want to invite Mr. Daniel Siram to our show this evening. He, of course, is the regional chair, region number 4, and he is a member. He is a member of the um, National COVID Task Force. There as regional chair, region number 4, Mr. Siram. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hi, good afternoon to you, Randy. Good afternoon to our viewers as well. It's nice being on the show, and I must say
Yes,
also before we go into the show, I must say a happy Navratri to our Hindu brothers and sisters, and a happy Ramadan, commencement of Ramadan to our Muslim brothers and sisters. And as always, it's a pleasure to be on with you, Randy. Councillor Randolph
definitely,
Critchlow, that
definitely.
is.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much. Serving on region number 4 council, and I'm happy to be serving too, sir. So what I want to start with is, we're talking COVID before we stray from what is happening in Guyana with COVID, and I know you sit on the task force as regional chair for region number 4, representing the region on that task force. Um, this situation seems to be worsening in our country at a point in time when we thought we had um, a handle on what is happening. We see the increase in deaths, we see the increase in positive cases. From your level, what are your thoughts on what is happening?
Well, first of all, Randy, I hate to begin on this note, but if I remember hearing earlier, you said that there was only 262 deaths. That's what you reported.
Yes, 260. Yeah.
As at an hour ago, Randy, we are 263 deaths right now. Right.
Wow. Wow.
So that's
Thank you for
plus
that
one.
update.
Sorry to correct you there. I mean, it's disappointing to
No,
have to
let's go.
correct you on
I'm
this
happy that,
note, but
we're getting.
but
Listen, if
it's
you
just
see
to show.
at the top here,
Imagine.
it says, no, sorry, I'm telling you, I'm happy that you corrected me because at the top here it says credible and valid. So I'm happy that we're giving the audience the correct information.
Yes, I mean today alone nationally we have 263 deaths, and today we have 153 new active cases of COVID-19 in Guyana, right, which is skyrocketing.
Mhm.
Just before the Pago and the Good Friday Easter weekend, we would have held many consultations at the level of the National COVID Task Force to put stringent measures in place, right? We did note that these activities are super spreader activities, if you want to call them that, because with these activities they gain the attention of large crowds, and that was one of the concerns of the task force. Many of us basically said we should have just canceled these holidays going forward. However, the decision isn't left ultimately up to the task force. There are higher policymakers that decide how to go forward in these realms. um, it wasn't the best of ideas, in my opinion. I still advocate on behalf of Region 4 that we should go into a lockdown. If not, you don't want us to go into a lockdown, we go back to the 6 to 6 curfew, as many of our colleagues and other agencies, non governmental agencies, would be calling for. And you see, the point is here right now, Randolph, is that we have to decrease the volume of persons in circulation. We need to revisit the public service guidelines and put persons back into to rotations. We need to put persons, or only a certain percentage of persons to be allowed at work. Fact of the matter is that the public sector is the main employment drive, or the mass of employment is done through the public sector, and that's where we need to curb first. I do know that the COVID Gazette doesn't say that they can't do so, but the administrators in the public service need to enforce these guidelines. Now we need to decrease the amount of persons in circulation. We need to decrease the amount of persons in public transportation. We need to only go out unless it's need be to do so. It's deemed necessary now. I mean, I wasn't one that was very comfortable with taking a vaccine for COVID. However, today I took the responsible step in going to get that COVID vaccine today, because what we saw is that about a month ago we were hearing about a variant of COVID coming into Guyana. That's just a month ago. Now, after two super spreader holidays would have passed, and we would have seen the numbers them going. I remember quoting in our first COVID 19 meeting for April that on the fifth day we had 14, I think it was 14 deaths. And by the eighth day, we had 18 deaths for April alone. This is coming out. This is after the Easter weekend, and this is what's coming out of two major um, crowd crowd gathering events. I mean, now is not the time to look at it in an emotional sense. This is time to start saving lives, and sometimes the population, and even now we have a public outcry for stricter measures to be in place, for a lockdown to go in, for stricter curfews to be in place. So, as a kind government, anybody would know that you should go forward and listen to the people. Not always you give in to the people, but at this point in time, wisdom must speak, and we must know that what is going on isn't profitable at this point in time. As we know that there's good collaboration between the private sector, the enforcement arm, which is both the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Defense Force, and the various tiers of government, central government and central government, regional government, and local government. And although we have all of these in place, still we find that we are having too much persons with a positive test for COVID-19. And again, I mean, if central government doesn't want to make these policies, then we as individuals and supporters of my political party must go forward and remind our supporters and all Guyanese, as a matter of fact, to be more responsible, respectable. This is the time when we have to protect our loved ones, protect ourselves. We need to ensure that we wear a mask. Not because you get vaccinated, that means you're clear to wear a mask and clear to go and conduct life as per normal. The vaccine does not cure you from COVID. It does not prevent you from getting COVID. The vaccine is a mere boost to your immune system so that you can fight off COVID. But even with the new variants, we don't have that much information if the vaccines will hold up against them. So in this way, it's all about protecting ourselves. It's about being proactive as a people. It is about social distancing now, sanitizing yourself, do not going into public places, not going into crowded places unless it is deemed necessary. And this is what we must be preaching to our people, Randall. This is what we must
Yeah.
be preaching to everyone, because
And, and,
if at
and
the national policy making level we cannot, they cannot come up with they cannot arrive at this idea, which has not been taken off of the table as yet at the national task force level. But we must be giving clear guidance to our people at this point in time.
and that's the problem that I have, regional chair. I know you're responsible for the region with the most recorded cases. Of course, the most populous region, so you may expect that. But this is a problem I have with the approach since August the 2nd. The government came in, there was a task force in place, there were measures in place, curfew, and all the other measures in place, which were deemed by this administration, the PPP, as hard measures. And so they relaxed it. They pushed the curfew back. They see, they relaxed measures on in-house dining, 40%, and they opened up, so to speak. Now that we are seeing this spike, we see a rush now to enforce some of these even harder measures, and that is the problem that I have, the inconsistency, which is, for my part, responsible for this. Because if you had persons, we need to, this is not rocket science. We look at New Zealand, we look at certain other countries who took a very hard line and decided that they're going to protect their people by these hard measures. Now those countries are able to move in a direction where I saw in New Zealand people are going to sporting events and they're basically reopened. And so I find that that inconsistency in the approach very, very troubling.
Yes, Randy, it definitely is. It sends the wrong message, and it definitely gives a false sense of security to the persons, to the
Yes.
populace. Um, this is what we don't want, and you see, it's compounded also by giving vaccines, because not a lot of information is out there on the vaccines. And a lot of persons too might have that false sense of security because they took the vaccine and they feel that everything is back to normal. It's not back to normal. It's just the beginning of getting there. And we don't know when we will get there. What we know for certain is that COVID will be with us for quite some time. Um, as you rightfully said, Randy, I was a part of the first COVID-19 task force under our administration, and we did put a lot of strict measures in place. We didn't like having to put so much strict measures in place, but it did curb a lot of a lot of the transmission of COVID, and we were going to put additional measures in place so that we could have had those strict measures become a norm. But by relaxing them now, we would have made loopholes from moving the curfew from 6 p.m. to 10 to commencing at 10:30 p.m. It basically gave a lot of loopholes, especially with restaurants and these beer gardens and so being opening, and the
Yes.
enforcement of them now is very difficult, because we would have to upgrade our laws in order to do certain types of enforcement. We have a lot of areas in which it's unclear. So now we have to keep revisiting the COVID guidelines and the gazetted order to ensure that we plug those loopholes, right? When I think
Yeah.
personally, because of the lack of resources we have thereabouts in the enforcement arm, the lack of resources we have generally in the country to deal with COVID-19, the ideal thing would to do would to go to a bit more stringent measures, right? Once we flatten the curve, then we could come back to the table now, and decide how we could start relaxing certain measures, but to the level of relaxation that we can also have certain control over them and not lose control, in which we have been doing as of recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So you know, if we move a little bit from COVID now, so we can talk about what is happening in your region. I don't know if we want to give an update on the works happening in the region. I know that there are a number of things happening in terms of COVID. There's an issue when it comes to the COVID relief. But what has been happening? What is on the table for Region 4? Because we haven't had an update from you in a little while.
Well, of course, I'll make it very clear here right now. Region 4 and
Yes.
any of the RDCs, we do not deal with the COVID relief. The COVID cash grant relief is dealt by central government, right? We are just
Central.
used to get the money
Facilitate.
into the region to get them out to the persons who are in charge of that disbursement of cash grants. However,
Yes.
in the region, one of the main concerns that we have currently ongoing is monitoring of our drainage and irrigation apparatus in the region, in and around the region. As you would see
Mm.
that one of my main concerns is to ensure that we're not flooded anymore in Region 4. Particularly, and I also know that the main city council is doing a great job also monitoring the drainage and irrigation system in and around Georgetown. We're ensuring that the
Mm.
pumps are operable, that all the sluices are there, that the sluice operators and the pump operators know their duties. We're living in a time now where it's kind of unpredictable of when these disasters could strike. And when we have unpredictable weather, also one day it's raining hot, and within the next hour you find it start to rain, like if we have to build an ark. So we're in the region. We're being
Mm.
proactive. We're sending our representatives out to all parts of the region to ensure that these drainage and irrigation facilities are up and running. Those that are inoperable, we're having them serviced immediately. We're trying to get the drains that need tilting, the weeding, and general cleaning to be done at this point in time. We had a bit of a backlog of work awaiting the approval of the 2021 national budget. But now that those budgets are finished, we also just completed our first tendering process at the region, and we're in thereabouts the evaluation phase for those tenders, and then they will go to the tender board for them to actually be awarded. And then in the next month or so, we can actually see a lot of works being conducted within and around Region 4, very much to the development of all the residents and citizens of Region 4. And you will
Hmm.
find that you'll be hearing more from me, Randy, and a lot of other sources, other media outlets will be hearing more from Region 4, because we were in our preparatory phase in the beginning of the year. And now we would have
Okay.
been given the go ahead for the finances that we would be having, and for the remainder of the year, we can go. We're going full steam ahead to having these projects awarded for us, then to the execution of them, and then we will be checking on them and giving you, the residents and citizens of Region 4, the timely updates as to what is going on. We will also start moving around in the communities to find out, how to make things better. Myself, councillors, both at the RDC level and at the NDC level, will be moving around. As I keep saying in the region, this is not a political thing that they were doing. We're doing regional development for all Guyanese in all areas and in all sectors, whether it be for the admin and finance sector, whether it be for drainage and irrigation, public works, whether it be for public health, or just the education, in which we're monitoring the education also. We're monitoring the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. We're ensuring that all of the health centers are properly stocked and staffed as well. So there are a number of things that are going on during this preparatory stage in the region. We are trying to refill and restock many of these health centers. We are trying to have all of the processes on the go very transparently, so you, the people of the region, can see how your monies are being spent. And we look forward to doing a lot of great things and a lot of development for Region 4. Region 4, um, particularly, is the hub for all economic activities for the country of Guyana. If we shut down, the country shuts down. Um, and we look forward to ensuring that we have efficiency in the region. We hear that the oil and gas sector will bring a lot of things to the region, and we're not only looking at the oil and gas sector, we're looking at the agriculture sector to beef up their stakes, to also bring employment back to the people of Guyana. And there's so many great things that will happen, and I will be right here alongside you, Randy, working with the residents of Region 4, and we'll definitely bring you the necessary updates as they unfold.
As we talk about, you said you mentioned oil thing. I know we have this story lined up for our viewers about what is happening here in the oil sector. We're going to be discussing this a little later. But interesting developments there as we see production being slashed. But we're not going to go into that now. We're going to have our viewers discuss that a little later. Um, Regional Chair, before you go, um, I know that education has been on the front burner as it relates to reopening of schools and how we're treating with that in this pandemic. What has been the state of affairs in region number 4? And I know that you work very closely with the education committee and those persons there at the Department of Education. What can you tell us from your end in terms of what is being done for region number 4 in the education department?
Well, first of all, big congratulations to the Education Department of Region Number 4. Those are some of the staff that I have. I mean, I just can't single them out, because all the departments work double overtime since this pandemic has started. But education has gone above and beyond to ensure that the delivery of items to the children are there, right? And that we have the necessary feedback in the region that we have. Um, Everyone knows that I am fully against the sending children at 100% capacity back to schools. I don't think that logistically we're prepared for it. Mentally, we're not prepared for it, and there are a lot of tiers that we're not prepared for it in going into the education sector and preparing teachers, preparing schools, and it's living in a COVID environment. This will take some time to get used to. Not saying that it can't happen, but it cannot happen haphazard. It needs some time. It needs a lot of planning to be in place before it. And I would have been raising concerns at all of the meetings that I would have attended for the opening of schools. I'm glad to see that they haven't gone through with the initial plan of opening schools at 100% capacity for face-to-face learning, and we thank them for that, and we look forward to having more meaningful consultation with government on this issue. We continue to try to get out the study material to each and every child of Region 4. For the viewers that are listening, if you need any assistance with these study material, you could always contact the RDC Region 4 to have the worksheets and so for the various grades. And you could work with your kids at home. I think that there's also the e-platforms in which they'll start rolling out. And we keep monitoring this. As I said before, with regards to face-to-face learning at 100% capacity, we're not ready for it. I don't know if Ministry of Education would have budgeted for it, but definitely the region wouldn't have budgeted fully for it going forward for 100% face-to-face learning. It will be a logistic nightmare, and it will also be a nightmare in terms of the being totally unprepared for such a case to happening. I think that we were going well in which we were trying to phase in taking kids back to school dependent on what exams that they need to do, and we should keep at that level. And at the same time, the policymakers will have consultation on how to further develop and better the delivery of educational material to children in the region. In the meantime, it is there for kids to stay safe and for the parents to just be a bit more vigilant as to what will be the new outcomes and the decision made towards boosting education in the region and nationally.
I'm happy that there are steps being taken by the ministry to ensure that students, because this is a ticklish issue, a ticklish topic, because I am one that I believe that this should happen, that we should see a reopening of school, and but it should not be haphazard as we said. It should, a plan should be in place. Whether you have a shift system or not, because there are many students who are suffering more than a year now, because one, the parents may not have the facilities in place to ensure that they are getting the online, and they are not getting, and they're also not getting those handouts that they're giving. So there's a dire situation out there where a number of students have not been engaged for more than a year. So I'm happy that that is being done at the level. Regional Chair, we want to say thank you very much for coming and engaging with us for these few minutes. It's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Randy, for having me on, and thank you to our viewers as always. I just like to remind them that COVID-19 is still with us. Needless to say, all of the other issues that we have in place, this is one on the front burning right now. And I'd like to remind them that to go out, get the vaccine, right? I think I just read an article just before coming on here, Randy, that they're saying now that they will be giving the vaccines to everyone over 18 years old. If this is the case, I'd urge all Guyanese to go out and get the vaccine, be vaccinated, get that boost in your system, right? Wear your mask, practice social distancing, sanitize as much as possible. Don't go to crowded areas. Don't go into public spaces unless it's deemed necessary. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones, right? And of course, stay safe just generally,
Yeah.
right? So thank you
Before
for
you go,
having me on, Andy.
Before you go, regional chair, I know there is I heard something today. I just want to confirm, because I know you are there, the COVID task force. Um, this We had the TCI group party coming out and asking government to put the curfew back to 6. Do you know if there's any movement in that direction to bring the curfew back from 10:30?
It has not been decided as yet, to my knowledge, and the last missive that I see coming out of the task force, just about an hour ago, stated that the curfew will remain from 10:30 to 4 a.m. But I can tell you that the 6 to 6 curfew is still on the table. It's not off the table, but it's up to the policymakers, the national policymakers, to give the go ahead for that curfew to come into play. But as of today, the curfew still, I haven't been given any information. Otherwise, the curfew will still remain from 10:30 to 4, to 4 a.m. in the morning. Only essential persons moving on a 24-hour basis. You have to have your ID card on you or something from your employer stating that you're an essential person. And Randy, hey, it doesn't take the government alone to instill a 6 to 6 curfew. We as a people and we as leaders need to continue telling our people to adhere to these measures. I mean, we first put out these measures and we first saw how efficient these measures are. And I tell all Guyanese, our supporters, people of Region 4 in general, and anyone that I meet internationally and just to keep following the same measures that we would have had in the first place. And I reiterate again, Randy, for those listening, wear your mask, social distancing, sanitize frequently, avoid crowded places or public spaces unless it's deemed highly necessary, right? Be respectable, be responsible, and protect your loved ones and yourself. That's the simple message I have here, Randy.
And that's a good note to end on. Regional Chair, who also sits on the COVID Task Force representing Region Number 4. Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel Sira.
Thank you, Randy, and thank you for everyone listening.
Right, right. Folks, that was Mr. Daniel Siram, who is Regional Chair, Region Number 4, and represents the region on the National COVID Task Force, imploring us that we need to do the right thing and giving us an update there on what is happening in Region Number 4 as it relates to both education and the works being done in Region Number 4. Folks, we look forward to continued works out of that RDC. So let us continue with what is in the news. As we do that, let's just have a quick 20-second break, and give a shout out to our friends there at the Black Pearl Seafood. And we'll be right back with more information coming out of the news. Thank you very much for staying tuned to the APNU AFC Live, the rush this afternoon, as we continue to unpack some of the major issues. Sorry about that. In the news. So what else is in the news as we scour our local newspapers and our local websites? Um, we're picking up, of course, on this story coming from the Village Voice, a man who was waiting in the line at the National Insurance Scheme on Wednesday. Mysteriously fell ill, not fell ill, he died. In the press release, the NIS said it regrets the passing of Mr. Harold Shafee whilst conducting business at the scheme's Camp and Ben Street office on Wednesday, April the 14th. Picking up on this story from the Village Voice. Also, as we would have preempted and previewed just now, there's another story here. Folks, we told you a few days ago about the dramatic shift in the amount of the production from the Liza Destiny FPSO there, from 120,000 barrels a day to now, right? To now only 30,000 barrels. So this is concerning for us. This is extremely concerning for us. And folks, this is our story behind the story for today. Right? Let's dig deep into this, and we'll ask for your input. So you can hit us up in the comment today, because I believe that this is the story behind the story today. Right. Let's get back into this story. We said to you that ExxonMobil encountered another problem, another issue where they're saying that because of this issue they have to cut production from 120,000 barrels to some 30,000 barrels a day, which is quite significant. And now we see this report coming out from News Source Guyana that the government is probably going to consider action against Exxon over the ongoing compressor issue. Let's unpack this, folks. What is happening here? Earlier this week, as we said, the company announced that there's another problem developing with the compressor, forcing the reduction in daily production by 90,000 barrels. And you have to wonder what is happening there. The government of Guyana has registered its displeasure over ExxonMobil's inability to resolve the issue regarding the gas compressor. Right, earlier in the week, the company announced, as we said, that they will be cutting by 90,000 barrels. In a statement last evening, the Natural Resource Minister said that the government of Guyana, right, is highly disappointed with the operators' inability to resolve this situation to date, and will continue to monitor the levels of daily crude oil output and flaring to best allow for the economic feasibility level. You know, nice fancy statement. Nice fancy statement. The statement also indicated that the crude oil lift has not been affected, right? And they are considering action against Exxon Mobil. So get in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know what you think about this ongoing situation. This has been, when we talk oil, we know that our friends over at Kaitro News would have taken this issue up in arms. And, Mr. Glenal spares no effort, no time on his show, spares nothing at all in highlighting the inadequacies in these the oil deals, so to speak, that were signed, and pointing out that nothing is being done right now to hold Exxon accountable. Remember, of course, that Exxon has to recover. There's a recoverable cost that needs to be paid before we are really benefiting from any proceeds from this, right? So let us know in the comments how you feel about this new setback, right? How do you feel about this new setback? Give us your thoughts before we close today. As we said, we're not going to be running program too going to be we had a protracted program. But let us know, that is our story behind the story. How do you feel about what is happening there with Exxon Mobil? Somebody yesterday said that it's Exxon Mobils, more bills than anything else. Exxon Mobils, right? Let's get some of the comments on this particular issue, right? If I can read some more of that release, right? The government of Guyana is currently examining the implication of the loss of output and consequential loss in income and revenue, including the measuring, right, of the national interest. The Ministry of Natural Resources said in this statement. Of course, they have to consider the implications of this, because again, this will mean that it will take us longer to actually start seeing benefits. And this was, let me say this clearly, this was one of the red flags. This was one of the things flagged by many persons when we understood the final workings of the deal, that we had all of this recoverable cost that needed to be paid first before we saw any significant monies coming to the country, that this company had to recover these costs. So now if that process is slowed up, we now have to go back to our projections as to when we will be receiving these monies and kind of adjust that. So these are all things that need to be considered, right? But again, folks, we have to pay attention to this. We have to pay close attention to what is happening there, and let's hope that they can resolve this problem in a speedy manner. Folks, before we go, let me just remind you that we'll be on this evening with In the Ring with Sher Duncan, and we hope that you can join that show this evening, sorry. And again, thanking you for being a part of what we're doing here. Um, yes, tomorrow the rush will be a little different. We'll be coming to you from a different location. We'll be talking local government tomorrow. We'll be talking local government and we'll be trying to bring you some of a presentation by Mr. Oscar Clark on Burnham's vision for local government. We're going to be trying to bring you part of that lecture series that's being put on by the People's National Congress Reform. The featured presenter tomorrow will be Mr. Oscar Clark, and we'll be talking about Burnham's vision for local government. And we will juxtapose that as to what took place during the APNU AFC's tenure from 2015 to 2020 as it relates to local government, and what obtained before and what we see happening now as we drift slowly back to what was being done before 2015. So join us tomorrow at 5:30 and we'll have a lovely presentation and as we talk local government in Guyana. As for now, we want to say thank you very much for joining us. Continue to be a part of what is happening. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's continue, as I usually say, let's continue to work together for national development. Do enjoy the rest of the evening, folks.